It always comes down to death and taxes. Yep, it's tax season again, and when it came time for a classic Doctor Who review, there really was only one episode that we thought was appropriate. The Sunmakers. This is a fourth Doctor story featuring Leela, who, you know what? I'll spend a little more time talking about her as we go. But this one is highly appropriate for tax season. And if you don't know this one, what it basically breaks down to is the writer for this episode, Robert Holmes, had a nasty experience with the tax department and out of spite wrote this episode. This is an episode where the Doctor and Leela and K9 all show up on a planet that is in the throes of incredibly deep and greedy and harmful bureaucratic tax system where basically you pay your taxes or you die kind of thing. And dying is expensive. There's a lot of taxes involved in dying too. And yeah, the main villains are tax collectors. The one we spend the most time with is called the Gatherer. Like, it's very on the nose. Subtle, it's not. And to be fair, like, it's slightly obfuscated because there is sort of a company aspect to this. It's not strictly speaking government takedown, but it is absolutely taking a very harsh view of taxes, but not necessarily the general premise of taxes, but definitely of the dehumanizing nature of taxes, which I honestly think is kind of a fair thing to take a shot at. Like, I don't have a big problem with taxes. I'm not a particularly capitalist-minded person at all these days. And as a result of that, I actually think taxes are not only a reasonable thing, they're a good thing, because I think we should be funding more social programs. I think we should be taxing the hell out of the top 1% a lot more than we are. But what I can absolutely admit to and say that's a fair criticism, by the nature of just what it does, tax collection and rule regulation, it's dehumanizing because you have to look at everybody as numbers and do the numbers add up. And that dehumanizing, that language of dehumanization, referring to people as citizen, worker, anything other than by a name, because that is what this is doing. It is taking a normal thing, extrapolating out to an extreme under a sci-fi premise and going, this is the extreme end of stuff we're dealing with. And that's, this does it with taxes. Oxygen did it with worker exploitation, for the 12th Doctor. And I think it's fair game. I don't think it's a particularly libertarian or overall right-winged thing, but I could see where some might think that. I don't think it is. I think it's just a voice of frustration, and I think it's more than fair to point out taxes can go too far, just like, not enough rules and not enough means to run things. That can go too far and everything just falls apart. There's extremes either way, and there are interesting stories to be told. As long as you are not just going, hey, here's the extreme of something we deal with, doesn't that make you think that's a bad thing? If you're actually telling a decent story through that lens, then good. That's what you should be doing. And this does. So the Doctor, fourth Doctor, and Tom Baker's in top form in this. He has some really great banter moments, especially with the Gatherer. They have some wonderful casual banter back and forth. It's quite entertaining. But I'm really, really liking Leela. I think this is my third story with Leela in it. I'm loving her. And I'm seeing her episodes out of order. But she's great. She's great. I really, really like her. I really like her hearing about what's going on with the extremes that the taxation has gotten to, and her response is just, well, the people should rise up and kill their oppressors. Like, she doesn't mess around. And she doesn't mess around either. Like, these guys, they try and threaten her, and she gets into a scrape every now and then and gets into some tough situation, but she also never goes down without, going down swinging. She just, don't mess with her. It's great. I love her. K9 is kind of badass in this one. He zaps a lot of people in this one. Stun, I believe, officially, but like K9, he's gunning them down left and right. He's kind of ruthless in this, and I kind of love it. And he and Leela are great together too, overall. And another thing with Leela is she does actually kill somebody at one point. Now, that's not done in the Doctor's presence, so I don't, because if it had been, I feel like the Doctor should probably not be okay with that, but the Doctor wasn't there. Probably doesn't even know she did it. And given the nature of her character, especially at this point, yeah, she would. There's a lot of interesting little touches. Like I said, there's the dehumanizing language used by the villains. There's sort of an acknowledgement that even though the people, trying to break out and break free from under the yoke of this excessive taxation that is robbing people of just the ability to live their lives in anything even approaching decency, the people breaking away from that aren't automatically amazing, great people. And some of them are really jackasses. Just because you are on the right side of a conflict doesn't make you a good person. And maybe depending on the reasons you're on the side that you're on, maybe actually you shouldn't be part of this at all. And without like delving into those sorts of ideas very deep, they are kind of there. They're present. And it's just not, it's a lot more nuanced than I expected an angry takedown of taxes to be. That having been said, I suspect Robert Holmes's mood in regards to his tax experience probably influenced the fact that towards the very end, spoiler, I guess, not sort of. It's not that, it is a spoiler, whatever. I say sort of because, like, yes, at the end, the bad guys are defeated. That should be standard. What then happens after is the Gatherer is picked up by ordinary people and hurled off a roof. And it's not done as a particularly cathartic moment. At least it didn't read that way to me. It read as kind of a, this place is kind of going to be in a mess no matter who's in charge, are they? But I suspect it was probably pretty cathartic for Robert Holmes to have a tax collector thrown off a roof. But this has a good feel. You can tell the budget limitations on this one. There's very little in the way of fantastical elements. You can tell that the outdoor scenes are just on the roof of like a warehouse somewhere. You can see where the budget was being stretched in this one, but thankfully the story that was written doesn't really depend on it really selling an alien location or what have you. So that's not a big thing, but like if that kind of thing takes you out, yeah, it's kind of obvious. But as I said, there's enough nuances and good little smart touches in the writing. The bureaucratic infighting, even from within those who are taxing the ordinary people, that's there, and that's accurate. That tracks. Everybody's pretty quick to change sides once it's very clear that the winds are shifting, which that makes sense. You don't get absolute loyalty to the cause when your main thing is just taxing people. If people think you're going down, they're not going to defend you to their death. And just an understanding of the situation. Because as I said, while you can kind of tell in some moments that this was written in anger and frustration, it's not nearly as one-sided or as morally monotone as you would think it is. And then it's got all these great little moments. K9 saying, "Don't embarrass me." That's, I don't know. Something about him saying that really, really tickled me. And overall, I had a good time with this one. It's not super memorable in that many of its aspects. I suspect that would be kind of a result of it not having too much in the way of more fantastical stuff. It's a much more grounded concept. It's a much more grounded setting. And with how bonkers Doctor Who can be, grounded can, unfortunately, sometimes just by its nature, be less memorable. Not always, but I think in this case, lacking sort of that really memorable, oh, you remember this creature, or like a definitive visual element. I'm not sure how much this one's going to stick with me. It's still pretty good, though. And like I said, the more I see of Leela, the more I am really enjoying her. I will be curious when I eventually, God, I'll be 50 by the time I get to it, but when I eventually see enough classic Doctor Who to feel comfortable doing a companion ranking that includes all the classic companions, Leela, she keeps edging her way up there, that eventual list when I get to it. The Sunmakers! What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and helps out what I'm able to do. Helps me be able to actually pay my taxes, which I have paid, to be clear. That is a thing that has happened. So don't worry, I'm all set. Pay yours if you haven't yet. But in any case, I want to hear what you thought. And the like, share, subscribe, those help me out as well. Those don't cost you anything. But don't worry too much about any of that. Try and take a relaxed attitude around here so you can come on back next time you need a break. My thanks to all my patrons, but in particular, I want to thank Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Sarvis, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Ruth, Oliver B., Solitary Pictures, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Emu Delki, Leotha Boyd, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Fernambulax the Poodle, Robin Powell, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperel, Tim Price, Adam RDL Taylor, Goddess Alida, I'm not sure. David Hall, Shayla Gourlay, Rosalind Bennett. You want to hear me mess up your name too? It's in the Patreon perks. I gotta work on that.